It's David Hall here from the Ideas Centre, here to share with you some thinking and some experience around the embedding of creativity within an organisation. It's one thing to be able to facilitate creativity, it's another thing being able to embed it within the organisation so that it has longevity about it, and that's what I want to share with you. Now, there are a number of key roles that need to be fulfilled within the embedding process. So I'm going to run through each of these. So kicking off with the champion or coordinator, this is absolutely a pivotal role. This is what makes it all happen. It's the individual who is going to act as the focal point for problem owners to come. If they want some creativity, they'll come and have a conversation with the champion or the coordinator. The coordinator will schedule the meetings, they'll drive the communication across the organisation and making sure that it's raised within the organisational awareness on a continuous basis so that people know it's happening in the background and it's something that they can engage with. It's important also to create a library to collate all the one-page summaries of all the creativity sessions that take place and to make sure through the facilitators that there's actually follow-up on each of those so they don't just sit there as a one-off exercise that led to nothing in particular. The next key role is that of the sponsor. The sponsor needs to be a member of the leadership team. It is all about keeping creativity prominent within the psyche of that leadership team so they're aware of this activity going on and they're looking for opportunities whereby they can engage with it. After all, the key prize in creativity is driving the innovation process, and it's all about identifying the strategic challenges that you can inject some creativity into that will give you those step function changes. That leadership buy-in is absolutely key. They also need to actively support the champion and coordinator, who might need someone from time to lean on to create some political weight, if you like, to make things happen, to make sure there's support and there's a foot behind the process to create the energy so that we end up with problem owners following through with implementation. It's the facilitators who are going to run the creativity sessions, and there's a process they need to follow. By working with the champion or the coordinator, they will be introduced to problem owners. Problem owners will then have a conversation with the facilitator to explain what their problem is, and it's important for the facilitators and the problem owner to meet beforehand, to learn about the problem, probably to undertake what I refer to as a scoping technique, something like boundary examination, multiple questioning, or even the bootlace analysis, to make sure that they're dealing with the real prime problem owner. What you don't want is to discover you've got the wrong problem owner in a session halfway through the facilitation process, but also to make sure you've got the best definition of the problem. When it comes to convening the creativity session, drawing in a number of other individuals to add weight to the process and inject further creativity, they need to run that process. Always start by drawing up the creative problem solving cycle because that is the roadmap for the entire process. No creativity session should be allowed to go beyond 60 minutes in my experience. You want to keep this as relatively short and sharp. So managing the time is absolutely key. And writing up the process at the end of a session is key as well, making sure that you take them through the process. What was the original problem you started with? What's the redefinition of the problem? What's the supercharged problem statement? What are the techniques that you used and what are the ideas that were generated, and what is the one single prime germ of an idea that now needs to move forward into incubation in order to lead to the implementation process. That's all down to the facilitator. Now, the facilitator and the champion or coordinator need to be working with a group of people that are prepared to lend their time to get involved with creativity sessions from time to time, to effectively be on call. And I've always referred to this as a creativity club within the organisations that I've been driving this through. Key requirement for those members is that they attend with an open mind, they need to be prepared to play with the techniques and to recognise that they're effectively offering a service to the problem owner. They are going to walk away with no actions whatsoever, but what they will do is gain increasing levels of experience in how to use these techniques and to develop an open mind. And they need to be ready to be called upon as and when required in order to fulfill the creative requirements in the organisation. Then there's the problem owner. The problem owner is key. This is someone who should have a problem that they have been struggling to solve by conventional means. It's probably been around for some time and it needs to really matter. It needs to be something that has to be solved, that needs to be solved. They should have complete ownership of the problem and the authority to make things happen, to be accountable for delivering the outcomes. And the facilitator needs to meet with the problem owner beforehand to make sure that they are prepared to do something differently as a consequence of the creativity session that the facilitator will be running for them. Otherwise, it's just an interesting experience, something curious that happened in the past but led to nothing different. And it's doing something differently which is absolutely key. Recognise that the real prize for this is addressing strategic challenges. Innovation is the ultimate goal, and don't forget that innovation is simply defined as making money out of creativity. And to deal with strategic challenges, you are inevitably going to be dealing with relatively senior problem owners, probably within or close to that leadership team. Those are the true drivers of transformation in an organisation. So once you have those key roles in place, there's a process that then needs to be followed. If there's a problem owner that has a challenge that needs some creativity thrown at it, you need to convene through the champion or the coordinator, whatever you want to call them, working with a nominated facilitator, a small group of people who are prepared to play with the creativity technique to deliver the breakthrough thinking for that problem owner. Ahead of that, you need to refine the skills within those facilitators and the members of the creativity club. So my recommendation is that the champion schedules a series of 1-hour meetings on a regular basis, perhaps once a month, possibly over lunch, and bring problem owners into those 1-hour sessions with genuine organisational problems. Nominate a facilitator, and you probably only need a couple of other people. So in the early days, you're only convening meetings on a regular, maybe monthly basis of 4 individuals, obviously drawn from the group of facilitators and complemented or supplemented by individuals that have stepped forward to become members of the creativity club. The makeup of those 4 people are absolutely key. You want 1 problem owner, you only want 1 facilitator. You need someone who's close to the problem, maybe let's refer to them as an expert, and critically important, to ensure that you get the creative bandwidth, you want to have someone who's relatively naive to the problem. Over time, you can increase the number of people to maybe 6, but never go above 6 people. When you increase to 6, then maybe you allow yourself to have 1 more expert, no more than that. And certainly you need 1 more naive to bolster, as I say, that creativity. Whatever you're doing when you're convening a session, never brief the attendees in advance of the session. Clearly the problem owner will know what the problem is, it'd be curious if not, and the facilitator, because they will have met with the problem owner beforehand. But the other 2 individuals won't have. So don't brief them on what the problem is, and don't brief them on what the creativity technique is that you're about to use. Otherwise, if they know the problem beforehand, they try and solve it, and if they know the creativity technique beforehand, they kind of internalize it. You want to take them by surprise, so there's more spontaneity in that creativity. The early meetings, you need to acknowledge you're going to focus more on exploring the techniques rather than solving the problems. So the first ones might be a little bit clumsy, but that's all right. Just make it explicitly clear to everyone that those early meetings are all about the facilitators grappling and coming to terms with the various creativity techniques. Key throughout the process is to communicate what is happening with creativity. What are the problems that are being addressed? What are the techniques that are being used? What are the ideas that are being generated? And when you get success, you need to celebrate it. Make sure that it's broadcast across the organisation to raise the awareness constantly that there's an initiative out there that people can get involved with to drive that breakthrough thinking, so that creativity becomes part of the culture and an understanding of innovation becomes one of the core values. And word will start to spread. What's not to like?